transgender decision, a divisive issue. How difficult a decision was it?
Well, it was a decision that was based on a very important and fundamental principle, and that is that as an international federation that has a vibrant female element in our sport, that it was absolutely vital that we protected the female category. And we've done this afternoon what we feel is in the best interest of our sport. We're not leaving it at that because we are setting up a working group. The working group will contain transgender athletes, and we want to understand more about the science. The science on transgender is not as robust, we absolutely accept, as it is on DSD, which was the other issue that we had to deal with today. But the reality of it is, at this moment, we don't have any transgender athletes in elite competition. And the consultation was very, very clear across all our major stakeholders. They did not feel at this point that we should have transgender athletes competing at elite level. And that is the decision the council took. And this has been a long, lengthy process. And it's been a good process. It's been important that we listen to people who are out in the field, coaches, athletes, member federations, and a number of other communities. And this is the judgment that we made today, and I think it is the right judgment.
So you clearly felt that the female categories in elite sport would have been compromised. Is that what the decision is based on?
Yes, absolutely. And our responsibility is clear. There's no ambiguity about it. I'm elected to do what we think is always in the best interest of the sport. And we felt that having transgender athletes competing at elite level would actually compromise the integrity of female competition.
Now, you're on record as saying if it comes down to a judgment between inclusion and fairness, you will always come down on the side of fairness. Fairness, you said, is non-negotiable. I just wonder what you would say to a transgender athlete who says that this is unfair.
Well, first of all, we don't have any transgender athletes in international competition. That day may come, but until we understand a great deal more about the science around this, which we don't, as I've said, we have 15 years of information and data on the approach that we've taken also this afternoon to our DSD athletes. We don't have that. So we have to fall back on a very fundamental principle, and that is that we are here charged with the responsibility of defending the female category, and that is what we've done.
Do you fear lawsuits as a result of this? Do you fear some court action?
Look, the decisions that we made today around DSD about transgender, also the decision that the council took on the continued exclusion of Russian and Belarusian athletes from our World Championships is not, it's not a challenge-free zone. There are legal challenges, there are medical challenges, there are certainly communication challenges. I'm rather of the view that we tackle those head-on in the way that we did when we suspended the Russian Federation for the egregious attack on the integrity of our sport through state-sponsored anti-doping. So, look, it's not the path we would choose, but if you feel you've done the right thing, you must then be in a position to defend it, and we will vigorously defend the positions that we've taken today.
There were reports that you may decide to reduce the blood testosterone levels from 5 nanomoles per litre to 2.5. Why did you decide to do what you have decided?
Well, in the DSD regulations, we have moved to 2 points over the 2 years. The reason for the separation from our DSD regulator, or the separation of the DSD regulations and the transgender regulations, is really what I alluded to in our opening exchanges, that we have a great deal more science and data and information available to us over the 15 years that we have been dealing on the front line with DSD athletes. Nobody has that kind of data. And we don't have the frontline analysis that we can use from the field of play, because, as I've said, we don't actually have any transgender athletes competing at international level. We don't know enough. We need to know more. And that's why the working group will now start looking at these issues. So we're not saying this is written in tablets of stone, but for the foreseeable future, we need to understand a great deal more about the science, and then maybe we look at this again. But that will be probably for councils, and my successors.
And I know that other sports, swimming, for instance, have taken similar decisions. Do you think that most, if not all, Olympic sports will end up at the same position?
Mark, I don't know. They may well. We didn't benchmark the decision we took today on anything other than the work that we've done in our own sport, and certainly throughout the consultation. So if other sports choose to do that, I'm sure they will have made the same judgment that it is in the best interests of their sport. We did exactly that today. I think it is the right judgment, and it was pretty clear cut from the consultation that's been underway for many months.
And just finally, Seb, on the Russian athletes, am I right in saying you've lifted the doping ban, but they are still banned because of the war, because of the war in Ukraine? How can you be satisfied that Russian states, doping has stopped?
Because we've had a task force, a working task force that's been dealing with this for 7 years. This is our 8th year. We agreed a reinstatement program with the Russian Athletics Federation 7 years ago now, 2015, 2016. And it was to the best assessment of our working group, independently chaired by one of the world's leading experts in this space, and the imposition in the Russian Federation of independent advisors that will remain in that federation for the next 2 or 3 years with some special requirements. We on the strictest interpretation of that roadmap, after 7 years, we felt that they had done what we asked them to do, and effectively we are now in control of those athletes and the testing through the Athletic Integrity Unit that we created in the reforms. The issue around Belarus and Russia was to continue the exclusion of those athletes because of the current situation. And Mark, 185 athletes in Ukraine have lost their lives. Yeah. I sat not that long ago with an athlete who lost her mother in a missile attack. I'm afraid I couldn't remain neutral on that, not for her and not for the other 185 athletes. These are never easy decisions. Yes, they always, in one way or another, can set precedents, but I'd rather deal with those as and when they come. There's not a threshold of morality here.
Right. But if the Ukraine war is continuing during the Paris Olympics, no Russian or Belarusian athletes at those Olympics?
That is what our sport has said today. And the one thing that is very clear is that the primacy for the selection of athletes, the eligibility of those athletes for national Olympic committees around the world to select, has to reside with the International Federation. We've upheld that primacy today. And so as far as the Council is concerned, there won't be Russian or Belarusian athletes in Paris.